Last night was the big John Fetterman, Dr. Oz debate for the Senate race in Pennsylvania, and didn't go exactly as Fetterman or his supporters might have wanted, but Dr. Oz also made a number of significant stumbles. So we're gonna dive into all of that. But first, we all knew that John Fetterman, still in recovery from his stroke, was going to have some difficulty, and he attempted to prepare us for that right off the bat. Here he is.
And let's also talk about the elephant in the room. I had a stroke. He's never let me forget that. And I might miss some words during this debate, mush two words together, but it knocked me down, but I'm going to keep coming back up. And this campaign is all about, to me, is about fighting for everyone in Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that needs to get back up.
Okay, so that is him attempting to explain his health situation as well as manage expectations. And you can probably hear even in that he was having a little bit of trouble at times. Now, there were periods that were a lot worse where he was having difficulty expressing his thoughts or slightly changing words from perhaps what he intended to say. But he laid out there what everybody already knows. He had a stroke just a few months ago. He has auditory processing issues. His brain functions, he has no cognitive deficits, but he has difficulty in hearing and sometimes speaking, so turning thoughts into words. And of course, that is going to be turned into something far more nefarious. Now, Dr. Oz on stage is gonna mostly try to pretend that he hasn't been a complete a-hole throughout this campaign. He's not going to actually to Fetterman's face mock him or question his cognitive abilities. That's for campaign ads and surrogates and all that. But the surrogates were doing that literally as the debate was going on. Stephen Miller, one of the most grotesque snake-human hybrids operating on Earth right now, tweeted in advance of the debate, "Get ready to watch Fetterman deliver a performance for the ages. As the first ever Senate candidate to receive clandestine video messages during the entirety of the debate, crime fetishist Fetterman should be expected to display nothing short of rhetorical genius." And he goes on to say that anything less than a 10 out of 10 from John Fetterman is a giant fail. Now, what you need to understand about that is he doesn't believe any of that or mean any of that. He, like most people talking about politics on Twitter, has no respect whatsoever for the people who follow him. And I really want to focus on that. I don't mean that he doesn't respect lefties like me. I don't care what he says and he doesn't care what I care what he says. He doesn't have respect for the people who follow him, who look up to him for some reason that I'll never understand. He doesn't believe that John Fetterman pre-stroke was known for being a good debater. He doesn't believe that he was receiving secret video messages or anything like that. He just doesn't care about any of this. Now, to be clear, a source familiar with negotiations behind the debate say that Fetterman wanted journalists in the debate room to independently see exactly how the closed captioning system worked in real time, so they would know that he was not receiving any secret messages or whatever other nonsense Fox is spreading. They were not allowed to do that though, because Dr. Oz's team blocked the request. Now, why that in the end was up to Dr. Oz's team, I don't know, but I do know why they blocked it. So that people like Stephen Miller and others, probably Tucker Carlson tonight, will be able to spread their conspiracy theories rather than having actual transparency, having journalists in the room. They decided no, that would clarify things in a way that makes it more difficult for us to spread our BS narrative. So no, we're gonna block the journalists and then let the internet do what the internet does. JR, what do you think?
Well, if I truly believed that my opponent was having issues with this whole thing, or if I truly believed all the video stuff that people like, what's that idiot's name? Stephen Miller was saying, that all this is gonna happen and look how horrible he looks and all this, without it even being exhibited at the actual debate, before that happens, I would want journalists in the room. I would want them to see it. We talk about all the time how, they're covering up for these libs. How about some exposure? Why not some transparency? That's what we want, right? So if it gets out that then Dr. Oz wants to block journalists from doing their jobs of showing how badly John Fetterman would have to perform at this because of the results of his stroke or the recovery he's going through, I would want that there. If I don't want it there, that would indicate that I don't believe any of this BS that I keep talking about. I'm just trying to convince you to think it, and I have to make sure that you have limited amount of information to either confirm or refute the statements that I make.
Yeah,
That should be an indictment on me.
You know, like looking at the way that people have responded to this. First of all, like as we've said, did he have difficulty expressing himself? Yes, he obviously did. Is it potentially even worse than I might have thought it would have been, considering that I've seen him speak recently and he had more capacity, in the recent past? Yes. But it makes me wonder, what if, this is crazy hypothetical, it could never actually happen, but let's think about it. What if a person ran for office that couldn't speak at all? Would everyone in media just declare, well, obviously they can't be a senator. I mean, they can't speak. Now, Fetterman, of course, can speak. He has what, 30% more difficulty than a random person? I don't know, maybe you think it's 40 or 50, I don't know. But he has far more capacity. But they seemingly believe that if you have trouble hearing, if you have trouble speaking, then really suspect. I mean, we're not gonna come out and say that it's disqualifying, but we're really gonna talk about it a lot. And we're gonna make it so that you can't help but think that this race should be determined by that. Not about the policies, whether Fetterman's or Oz's, but about whether he'll be able to give like a rousing bit of oration or something. That's what they're doing. That's actively what they're doing. Will it work? I don't know. Maybe a bunch of people will turn against him and support MAGA because Fetterman stumbled in his speech. I don't know. I know that Fetterman raised $1 million in the 3 hours after the debate. That doesn't necessarily mean much. I mean, his supporters presumably are giving him the money. We don't know that they're new supporters, but this is obviously a thing that Oz loves. They want the race to be determined on this. They wanted, by the way, 7 debates with Fetterman. And honestly, in most races, I would have been fine with that. Now, of course, bear in mind, if Fetterman hadn't had the stroke, there's no way in hell that Dr. Oz would have wanted the 7 debates. This is all about trying to press what they see as a weakness for Fetterman. But I'll also remind you that the point of a debate is communication. It doesn't have to be vocal communication, but you're supposed to learn about the candidates. And as much trouble as Fetterman might have had in literally turning his thoughts into speech, think about Dr. Oz, who can speak. He's TV, he's a slick, polished TV personality, but he also had a lot of trouble turning his thoughts into speech, because when he was asked if he would support a Trump 2024 run, he initially wouldn't say. Now notice, he could say, he can speak, he doesn't have those trouble, but he didn't want to say. Now he eventually said, I'll support whoever the Republican Party puts up, as if he wasn't joined at the hip with Donald Trump like 4 months ago. Okay, and as we're gonna get to when it comes to abortion, he can speak, but he doesn't want to speak about his positions on this. And I would argue that that's much worse. A guy telling the truth but stumbling along the way, I am always gonna back over someone who could speak for hours at a time and tell you literally nothing about what they're gonna do if they get into power.
It's the conversation about it's the conversation about principles and policies versus just trying to politic. Let's keep it real. So yeah, and we know the first level of politicians is to not give much substance, just try and paint a picture and make sure that you vote for them. So just really fast, just as far as their principles and policies, because look, they're saying John Fetterman is unable to serve because of the recovery from the stroke, right? So as I think many people have mentioned, everyone knows someone that's maybe had a stroke, or at least you're close enough to it that you've seen this. I have directly in my family, I've seen it. So if you say that he can't do the job, cool, you can say that, you can claim that and consider that maybe he can't do the job. What does that do with other folks? What's your thoughts on other folks? What's the Republican Party's approach to people who have chronic pain, or maybe are disabilities, or maybe fell into these things maybe because of health problems? Similarly to John Fetterman, what do they say about them in work? Do you guys know about it? Because a lot of times we talk about like safety nets, healthcare systems, all that stuff. What we tell them is shut up and get your ass back to work. We don't care that they need to be home longer. We don't care that they said, hey, I can't do the job at the same nature because of this health problem I've got. This whole thing, cancer. When those things happen, we go, shut up and get back to work. Look at you lazy freeloaders trying to take money and healthcare from anyone and everyone else. We treat them like garbage. That's the approach to people with health issues and working in the country, unless it's John Fetterman. Then suddenly it's hey, he can't ever do anything ever again in his life. Should he go home and start feeding off the system and taking money? Exactly. I don't think they want that.
Sort of doubt they actually believe that. Sort of doubt that they care.
Sorry, it was a long tangent, but still.
That's okay, but like the messages attacking him, I hate, obviously. The messages pretending that they're just concerned for him. And they want him to focus on his recovery. And it's really mean that people like his wife would be pushing him to run, and they just want him to get better. I just want to set the world on fire with my mind like a Stephen King character. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.